Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Voice by Matt podcast. My name is Matt Berthot. I'm your host, and I have a guy that I met through Arete Syndicate, and we've been friends for a while on Facebook. But recently, we connected in the past 2 or 3 months, really. And I meet people in my life very seldom that have the energy capacity that I do. Rob is definitely that guy. So Rob Cressy, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me here, Matt. And guess what? Facebook notified me today. It has been exactly 5 years since you and I first connected.
And I brought that up today. You guys are in for a treat. Like we've already been talking for about 10 minutes about what's going on in our lives and our business and what we're finding out about ourselves, what we're finding out about our clients. But this is about you today, Rob. This is about you and how Rob found his voice. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Rob, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your origin and anything else you want to share.
Well, first off, I want to plant a seed of possibility. This is going to be a 15 out of 10 conversation and will be the best podcast episode you've ever done.
Let's go. I feel it. Energy through the roof.
With this in mind, I have a very unique relationship to my voice. One, because of the way I actually sound. And then number two, in the way that I actually use my voice. So I'll start by the thing that's the most relevant here. 12 years ago, I quit my corporate job of digital advertising sales to go all in on living my dreams of getting paid to talk about sports for a living. I would sit there in my multiple six-figure job I was great at, didn't wake up every single day looking forward to slinging banner ads and text links. And I would just dream of the day in which I could be a full-time sports creator. I sat there and I was like, I know I am as good or better than everything that I see right there. So I said to myself, I would regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't give it a shot at making my dreams happen. To me, the bigger risk was never taking the risk. So I burned the boats, went all in, and went down to zero. And a mentor said something to me that changed my life forever. He goes, Rob, if you ever hope to get paid to do what you love, you better be doing it already. My dream was to get paid to talk about sports for a living. So how do you talk about sports in a way that somebody can actually hear you or see you doing it? Well, this is a decade ago. You, number one, have a podcast. You learn how to be a host. Audio and video editing, social media marketing, brand building. Essentially, my dreams were on the other side of learning how to build a media company. In the process, I lived in Chicago at the time, which, side note, was one of my dreams in life. And sometimes in life, God or the universe is just smiling down upon you. Because guess what? I lived right across the street from the Second City Training Center, the #1 comedy training center in the entire world. We're talking Steve Carell, Tina Fey, Chris Farley, the best of the best is literally across the street from where I live.
Adam Sandler, right? Did Adam?
You name David, like the who's who of the best comedians in the history of the universe. Yeah, all of them. Yep. So it's right across the street from there. And here I am. I just quit my job to be a full-time sports creator, and I saw the opportunity there to learn the skill sets of improv and comedy writing, not to become a comedian, but to leverage it in the way that I create. And I was there for 4 years, part-time.
Whoa.
After course. So I am fully baked in terms of the highest level comedy writing, improv, host on camera, all of this. But one of the courses that I signed up for was all around voiceover work. Because when you're sitting there at zero, you're looking at all the various opportunities or the skill sets. And we did an exercise called The Story of My Voice.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
And what it was, and this is homework for after the class, to write down as if this is an actual story, like I'm sharing on this podcast right here, that is sharing the story of my voice. And you can take that wherever you want. And you know what came up for me?
What?
Right or wrong, it is what it is actually the sound of my voice. Because for the longest time, I was in inside sales for a decade. And oftentimes people would say, "Oh, are you sick or are you coming over a cold?" Because of the way that I actually sound. So now as a sales guy, I have to stop and think. Number one, do I say, no, this is how I normally sell? But remember, the goal of us being in sales in theory is to actually sell or close the client.
Sale. Yeah.
So am I really going to throw out a neg right there and be like, no, make them feel bad? Or do I tell one of those small little white lies of, oh yeah, I'm coming over with something coming out. I'm almost done with it. Right. Well, guess what? The majority of the time I would tell the small little white lie. I'm like, oh yeah, man, I'm getting over something. Why? Because of exactly what I just told you, positive momentum doing the sale. But guess what? I would still hear oftentimes comments about my voice of the very unique nature of it. Oh man, you sound like you have a voice for radio. And of course, as I became professionally trained in doing this, I came across like this. Wow, you look like you're a sports announcer. And I was like, yeah, that's actually what I've created myself into being. But that is still part of the story of my voice because I don't hear what everybody else hears, right? I just talk to you like I talk to you, but for everybody else, and I do kind of chuckle with this when they do an impression of Rob, and it's like, you sound like you're talking with rocks in your mouth. I'm, oh, hi, I'm Rob, and this is what I sound like. And I'm just like, I chuckle because I understand the parody side of things, but that is the story of my voice.
Wow. So Rob, what was your favorite sport to talk about?
Everything. That's the thing is, why did I leave my old job to do this? Because if you could legitimately choose to do whatever you wanted in your life, I'm like, oh, talk about sports. I'm from Pittsburgh. So I've grown up around championships from the Penguins to the Steelers. My mom's side of the family is from Chicago. So I'm a Bulls fan. I lived in Chicago when the Cubs won the World Series and the Blackhawks won 3 championships. So everywhere around me is sports and creating. So I legitimately turned my dream into documenting and experiencing sports from a sports fan perspective, because here was the gift for me as a sales guy. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm like, hey, are you a Grizz fan or are you a Preds fan? And it's like immediately I could talk about Tony Allen and the Grindhouse or whatever it is, but instant connection point. So because of that, it's always been God gave me the gift of sports and he removed the maps and directions from my head.
That's amazing, dude. So talk to me about childhood a little bit, like mom and dad, and how'd you grow up, all that.
I grew up in a very conservative Christian family where, looking back on this now, I'm very thankful for the family values that were instilled in me. Every day before I would leave the house, my dad would say, hey, Rob, do what's right. That being said, it was also challenging from that, being somebody who was raised in a very conservative family where growing up in the grunge rock era of Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, Stone Temple Pilots, there's the teenage angst that came from that. So there was a lot of simple things like not watching MTV, not watching The Simpsons. So you've got the way they were simple things that we laugh at right now. But if you're raising a child in terms of how the moral fiber of what they do, and it just happens, I'm growing up in one that's a little bit, I don't know if stricter is the word, but a lot more conservative than most people there. And a lot of that is probably where I both created a shell for myself to where people would always say to my parents, and Rob is just the shining light. And they're like, what are you talking about? He says nothing at home. Well, it's I got 2 younger sisters in the family dynamic right there. So I saw outside of the family as my opportunity to really shine and be me.
Wow. That is bizarre.
It is.
Most people would not do that.
As I would look at this right now, if you think about the way that people talk in a group, and one of the things that Andy and Ed have talked to us about is sensory acuity, the ability for us to audit our surroundings, right? So I really took that to heart when they taught us that. So when I was living in Chicago and I would go out with my friends, let's say there's 3 of us or 4 of us in a circle, we're at a bar just chopping it up, I would intentionally sit back and say nothing and just watch what was happening around me.
I do this.
And you would hear how people are talking over each other, where one person's talking about oranges and then the other person's like, well, what about the football game? And you're noticing these things. So it's not actually hard to be the person who sits back if there's a lot of other things going on in front of you. And for me, that was almost the role that I took in that situation. It's what did gravitate me towards a love of sports too.
So take us to where you've been like the last 5 or 6 years. You know, we've known each other in Arate. I joined in 2019. I think you did too. Talk to me about like that growth, because I know for me it's been a whirlwind of life like happening for us for sure. But, you know, you've made a pivot from the sports world to something new.
So my entrepreneurial journey is very circuitous. It looks more like a roller coaster.
Wow, that's a big word.
I've used it enough times to be able to drop that big word there. Then it does a linear path, because it's the true reality of it. I went all on my dreams of getting paid to talk about sports for a living. In the process, Matt, and you'll get this from the story of my voice, Rob became the podcast guy, because let's call it 8 or 10 years ago. You know what nobody did back then? Podcasting. So I have been given the gift of being forward thinking. It just so happens my dreams were on the other side of learning how to talk on camera in a microphone. So I'm slinging podcasting, and people would just keep on saying, well, Rob, how did you do that? How did you do it? To where I got tired of just having the same conversation. I said, let me create an ebook. Then I create the ebook, and people are like, I don't want to read. Cool. I'll create the course. They'll buy it. And then there's only a 5% completion rate statistically for courses. So now I'm like, cool. I'm just going to do one-on-one coaching for brands and entrepreneurs and business leaders to help them launch their podcasts. I was hired at that time as both a host of shows in the world of sports betting and fantasy sports, as well as to help build shows for people who wanted to do the same. And so it was cool and all. Well, then here comes COVID, and COVID wiped out the sports industry, AKA my dream. And I had the ability to either die with the industry or reinvent myself. And I never set out to become a coach.
I want to say this. I want to step in. Knowing what COVID did to myself and you and a lot of other people, I think, I don't know if it's just us being opportunists and relentless in our pursuit of, you know, we don't give up, right? But if COVID didn't happen, Rob, we wouldn't be talking right now necessarily.
No chance. No chance whatsoever. And you're right, because COVID for me was no different than a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like, how is that possible? Well, as an entrepreneur, every day is filled with obstacles, adversity, some I see, some I don't see, fear, judgment, self-limiting beliefs, doing more with less, and finding ways to consistently do new things I've never done before.
Yeah. And it was like, God, I mean, dude, it's so, I say this a lot. I love pop culture. I love movies, obviously, as you can see from my background. The COVID, like, whole thing was Thanos snap. That it literally was. And it made all of us have to go, okay, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I actually living the dream and the calling, the mission, the assignment that God has for me? And I knew I wasn't. And I know so many people that, well, unfortunately, a lot of people gave up and they quit. Suicide rates went through the roof. But I know a lot of people that are still in my circle, that are still in Arate, that are killing the game right now, that stepped into a better version of themselves. And not only a better version, but like if this was like the baseline, like you said +1 the other day, right? If we are at +1, COVID made us go to +10. If you did the work. And if you just complained all the time, you just stayed here or you went below it. And Man, I'm just going to say it straight up, and then you can say what you want about this. My dad died. I went to 2 ayahuasca ceremonies. I had like school, like all this crap happened at school. Eventually lost all of my support system, got divorced, to where I finally had to say, yes, okay, God, fine. I will do what you told me to do. I will do the calling. I will do the assignment. Let's go. But man, it is hard to say yes.
It's way better than saying no.
Yes.
I'm right there with you because I went back down to 0 again. That was the thing of I never set out to become a coach. I just lived like one for a decade until I was hired to help people be better at business by being better at life. So I had no coaching website, no offer, no landing page, no course, nothing. And I got my first gig as a high performance coach to help an ad sales team in New York, 10 of them, because the CEO saw the way that I lived my life on Instagram. He's like, hey, Rob, will you coach my team? And I was like, sure. So what do you do if you never set out to become a coach and somebody asks you to coach 10 of their people? Well, all I did is reverse engineer the last decade of my life. Wow. How I went from 0, no self-awareness, no growth mindset to inch, building block. And I built out like a 44-step or 44 call curriculum of, all right, guys, here's call 1. We're going to do these 2 things here. And in the process, I don't even think I've ever spoken this before to anyone because of the way that we're going with this here. I had a very simple choice to make when I was at that inflection point with COVID. So I'm getting paid to live my dreams hosting a sports betting podcast. People are legitimately paying me to hear me talk about sports betting. If you were to put chips on in the world of sports, what is the only industry that's not dead? What's the industry that's growing? Sports betting. It got legalized years before.
It's going.
So now, where is all the money? Where is all the attention? Where is the only thing that is not dead? Sports betting. And here I am sitting in this perch right there. And yes, I got significantly affected by COVID, but I was sitting there on a sports betting rocket ship. And I asked myself a question because I got to give a shout out to my web designer, Adam, who lives in Myrtle Beach. And I was having a conversation with him. He's like, dude, why are you not going all in on the thing that you're the best at?
Damn.
He's like, self-development is who you are and what you do. And I sat there and I was like, do I want to be slinging sports betting, which I'm very good at and I enjoy doing, or helping people transform their lives and be the best version of themselves? And very simply, I was like, let's go. We're going back down to 0, baby. We're building this coaching business so that I can help other people. And the unique gift in all of this, Matt, which I think is a lot different than a lot of the things we see on social media or guru-based content, is that this isn't ever something that I actually wanted to or attempt to do. It's such a natural calling for me that I just said, goodbye sports betting. And when I was no longer the host of that sports betting show, it's very natural to be like, maybe I'll just reach out to a few other companies and see if like stay in the game a little bit.
Yeah.
I said, no, universe, if you want me in the world of sports betting, you're just going to bring opportunities to me right now. But if not, I am all in on the self-development side of things. And guess what? I never looked back.
Wow. Man, it's I say this a lot to my clients, and I think we even talked about this on your podcast. We have all these legs of life, and they feel like so long, like you growing up in a conservative Christian home, you get to high school, you go to college, you're like, I'm going to do marketing and advertising, I'm working for this company. I don't like this. I don't feel like doing this. I'm going to do my sports. And that lasts for a long time. And then like, well, okay, now we're doing coaching. And so now coaching's evolved and now we're doing this. And so what I've seen, especially with, man, I could just say it. I'm going to say it. For the people that have been in Arete Syndicate since 2019, 2020, this is happening for us right now. It literally is. All of these legs of life that we've spent years developing are coming together. And that's what I've noticed with you big time right now. And I've noticed it with myself is what if everybody could just rewind the tape for the last 28 minutes and be like, what's the common thing that Rob had going in his life? It would be this. He would get to a point, and in comedy or acting, a point of climax, right? Where we're killing it. We're in the money, we're in the zone, we're in flow. Everything's feeling easy, comfortable, settled. And then in that point, you feel a little dip, boop. Or in the COVID sense, you felt a big dip, boop, right? And in that moment, I'm just realizing this. Like this would be on a coaching call right now, what I'm about to say. In that moment of that dip is when you need to answer the question, is it time to evolve? Because I think that is our indicator that says, hey, we gotta evolve now. We have mastered this element that we're in right now. Now it's time to go to the next step. And the next step is going to be harder to get to, but the evolution of us as a person, as people, we are meant to grow. Physically, spiritually, and emotionally, we're meant to grow. Ed Milet says it all the time. I'm addicted to the expansion of my being. What is he really saying, guys? He's addicted to the expansion of his spirit and his energy and his soul. He's addicted to that expansion. And that is something to be addicted to, because it's a constant growth pattern if you know how to identify the dip. And I told Rob before we started, I've had a little bit of a slower last 3 months. And yesterday was a big day. Today has been a big day. But for 3 months, it's like God, the universe went pause. Hey, Matt, you know all that spiritual stuff that you trained on when you were a little boy? All the Bible, all the stuff that you know about spirit and God, all that? Yeah, it's time to dive back into that. So for literally the last 3 months, it's been recreating a relationship with God. And once I did the work, and God, the universe, whatever you believe in, recognized, good job, Matt, you did the work. Now I'm getting to work with people that I actually want to work with. So I want you to talk about this dip, the legs of life. What have you noticed with some of your clients? What have you noticed with yourself?
I love this because what I wrote was all in. And this is about commitment. The dip is an opportunity for you to repurpose everything going on in your life into your favor. There is no doubt in my mind, when I look back at COVID, I was finishing the entire Live Hard program. I'm living in Chicago. I'm in phase 3. I'm just about to start phase 3 like tomorrow. And all of a sudden, there's a quarantine and a lockdown that says you're not allowed to go outside and you're not allowed to talk to humans. And one of the things in there is to meet a new person a day and to do a random act of kindness. Yeah. So the rest of the world is going, stranger danger, don't go outside. You can't see another person. And I'm sitting here and I'm be like, y'all are tripping. I've been all in on the best version of myself for 1 year. There's nothing stopping me. As Andy says, the conditions are never perfect. Everybody would have seen, hey, Rob, it's okay. Don't do phase 3 during a quarantine. You want to be the best version of yourself? There are no excuses. So that's going on. And I put the blinders on. So what was the blessing for me in COVID? It was actually that sports wasn't on TV. Why? The TV was never on in my house. Ever, 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 ever. I put such blinders on to the outside world that I was like, you have your chips on the table. And I was like, I am all in again. I am turning this into the moment that changes my life forever.
Wow.
All this is the change in story. Change in story equals change in commitment. Change in commitment goes all in on this. So that's when I hired a coach. So I doubled down.
Wow.
Built my own personal brand website for coaching, built my coaching program, the marketing automation, all of the guts of the business of where I am right now. What, 3 or 4 or 5 years later, it started with that seed right there. And our ability to repurpose any situation in our life into our favor. And we know this, Matt, life happens for us, not to us. But during that dip, it's not easy to see. Feels really hot, really hard. Lord, why are you not listening? I'm doing everything right. I'm all in. I'm sharing. I'm helping. I'm giving. I'm showing up. I'm doing the work day after day after day. Why is it not happening faster? And I'm going to end up doing a podcast about the thing that I'm about to share right now because it's inspired me.
Let's go.
Andy Frisella has talked about aggressive patience.
Yeah.
You tell anybody that term who's never heard that, they're like, whoa. So one of the big life hacks for personal growth for me is I've read a book every morning for 30 minutes, first thing I wake up for the last 12 years, weekends included. And I read it on a Kindle. And I read it on a Kindle because you can highlight the notes and then you can export the notes and it'll go into your Evernote. So I can then review my notes. There is an app called Readwise that can connect to your Kindle or Evernote, and it'll pull out one book highlight at a time.
Whoa.
And right now you can review however many you want. So right now I review 8 a day. Let's say it takes me 1 minute and 27 seconds. And I've read a couple hundred books over those times, right? So now over the library of 300 plus books, it'll just say, hey, Rob, here's 8 little nuggets from those books. One of them last week was a quote from John Wooden, the legendary UCLA coach, arguably the best basketball coach
this
ever.
Book. I just saw it upstairs. I finished it 2 years ago. It's upstairs. I just looked at it the other day. This is so wild.
Perfect. Let that be the synchronicity of life. And what were the 2 words in the book note that I read? Paralyzing patience.
Oh my God.
Stopped me in my tracks. I thought aggressive patience was the most aggressive way of patience I'd ever heard in my life. Paralyzing patience. And this is coming from the best of the best in the entire world ever. So now let's go back to that dip. Rob and Matt, all in our fields. Why is this not happening? Why is this not happening soon enough? Oh my God, life, I'm gonna go broke. Everything's just terrible right now. Paralyzing patience. So now imagine taking that term and repurposing that in our favor. Because Matt, you and I both know this, that those times equip us to then support and help somebody else going through those exact times.
Dude.
And it is the hardest thing in the world for people like you and I or a coach to have that self-awareness, because you look at whatever, your bank account, how you actually feel, whatever that is. But then I sit there and I'm like, I have 2 goals in my life. One is to help 10 million people and another one's to speak on stage at a sold out arena. And I sit there and I'm like, man, how acutely and specific and from my heart can I tell every single one of those people how it feels to live in any number of 1 million dips that I've been in?
God dang. Well, Ed says it a lot. I love that we're talking so much about Ed and Andy. This is a really beautiful conversation that we'll have to share with them for sure. But Ed says, you are most qualified to coach the person that you used to be. And, I think as we do this work, Rob, I'm pretty sure you're an athlete, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I was an athlete also. And I think when I went to college, I quit sports cold turkey and I went all into music, all into the voice. And so I gained a lot of weight and I forgot the athlete in me until, I started running every day in my 30s because I wanted to be fit and alive for the rest of my life for my boys. But when I joined the Arete Syndicate, and I did 75 hard for the first time. It was really the first time in my life as an adult that I knew I could grow in a very rapid rate. And what's really interesting, Rob, because I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast have done 75 hard. When you do 75 hard the first time, it is like throwing nitrous into your car. And you go from 0 to 100 faster than you've ever been in your life. And when you end that next day after 75 hard, you feel different. You feel like, oh my gosh, do I really want to go back to what I used to be? And you have a choice. And I chose to do it 11 more times. But what I learned in the 11, 12 more times I've done it is that first time is a monumental growth. Like going from like a tiny little anthill to a skyscraper. Like it is crazy. But everyone after that, the growth is smaller, but it's more detailed, more specific. And I think that's how we are as humans, is when you put this work in mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and abundantly, you're looking now, especially where Rob is and where I'm at, where a lot of our friends are, we're looking for the little tiniest millimeter nuggets that are going to give us the biggest gain. And so I'm just going to say it. If you have never done 75 hard, if you have never worked with a coach, you should do one of those for sure. If you want to grow. If you want to grow.
That when you said 75 hard the first time, the thing that I could not get out of my head, I didn't want to do 75 hard. I'm living in Chicago. I didn't. I told the story. I'm sitting on Siesta Key Beach. I was living in Chicago at the time, visiting my wife's parents. I'm listening to his podcast for a second time. It's only been out for, only been out for 1 month. So it's like, you see the few people who are doing it. It was like they were treading up Mount Everest with no equipment. They're like dying. They're like, oh my God. You're like, what are these people doing?
And what was so funny is like we were all doing hashtag 75 hard and asking each other questions. And we were like, I don't know. And we'd re-listen to the podcast. I remember that because I was like, he said, none of you MFers are going to finish this.
Right.
And when he said that, I'm like, let's go. Sign me up.
So I'm listening to the second time. And here's my mentor, Andy Frisella, being like, if you go all in on this, I guarantee you it'll turn you into the best version of yourself. 75 days is a small price to pay to be the best version of yourself. And I sat there and I was like, and this is my voice is on my shoulder. It's like, yo, dog, thought you said you're all in on living your dreams and being the best version of yourself. And this mentor of yours, who's building $1 billion company, who you respect and you learn from, he's saying, do this and you will be the best. And you ain't willing to do that? And I was like, insert the Clay Davis gift from The Wire. Shit. I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God. And for the reason that I did not want to do it, summertime shy, street festivals, Lollapalooza, Cubs games, drinking with my friends. I saw the summer, best summer ever. I did not want to do it. I was like, I got a hole in my boat. And because of that, I committed to do 75 hard. And no hyperbole, when you say the little anthill to the skyscraper, there's a thing called the 75 hard glow that this will happen in the second half of 75 hard, especially the very first time.
It's so true. It's so true.
This is the first time, because every other time, Matt, is called sharpening your sword. That's why I did the Live Hard program. You're just sharpening the inches of greatness.
Yep.
But on that second half of 75 hard, the very first time you do it, you will walk into a room and someone will say to you, you are glowing. And you're not literally coming in doing round off back handsprings. You're literally just walking in as a normal person, and there will be an energy emanating from you,
yep,
from how you look, to the way you carry yourself,
Yep.
to the smile on your face, and you won't say one single word.
Nope. And what's beautiful about it is it gives you like a vice checklist of things that you do and things you don't do. And if you really want to be the best version of you, you know what you need to do and you know what you should not do. And the more you need to do those things and you do them every day and you consecutively have them happen, every day, the better you're going to grow. The more your energy expands, the more your spirit expands. I'll use this as an example. I know that running every day, drinking my water, doing Wim Hof in my meditation, not drinking every day, I know those things are superstar for me. All right? If I do those every day, my energy will continue to grow. I will continue to expand. If I bump my meditation up, my energy will expand more. If my breath hold is over 3 minutes to 4 minutes on Wim Hof, I know based on that data over the last 5 years where I'm at energetically that day to help my people, right? And that's how detailed and specific we can get with ourselves. And now, Rob, we're going to segue into this because we got to get to this. Now I could take all that data and put it into Jarvis, which is ChatGPT, and it could give me even more information and more ways to dial it in to be more specific on what I eat, my workouts, what I'm reading, what I should be doing, what I should sign up for, etc. So take it away, Rob. ChatGPT, go.
So the next evolution of my life. So it's November 2022, and I receive a text message from my friend Jeff, also an entrepreneur, who says, "Hey, Rob, check out this thing called ChatGPT. It's all the rage right now on Twitter. First week it's out in beta." And I sign up and I use it. And within the very first minute of using it for the very first time, I was like, holy smokes, I feel like I just used the internet for the first time. Yep. I'm all in.
Yep.
1 minute is all it took for me in using ChatGPT to immediately see the next decade of the world.
Yep.
So Matt, with you and I, it's like we're talking about voice. What was one of those gifts I had? Being forward thinking. Hey, podcasting is a thing ahead of the time. If we were only around when Facebook or YouTube or Google was invented, I would make so much money, man. I can't wait for that next opportunity. Here is that opportunity in week 1. So imagine this. We're going to move back to, I don't remember when YouTube was invented. Let's call it 20 years ago. And John YouTube sends you a text. It's like, hey, man, I just created this new thing called YouTube. You want to check this out? And you see it in the first week. What do you think the opportunity would be to start investing in that for yourself?
Bro.
Well, for me, here's what separated me. So on Twitter, people are like just playing with this because no one knows what this is.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, I can create a blog post that sounds like Daffy Duck. That's all cute. And I'm sitting here as an entrepreneur and I'm like, how do I turn $1 into $1.50? So immediately the thing that separated me, and it's one of my superpowers right now, and I'm going to give it to you and I'm going to give it to anybody listening or watching right now, is ChatGPT and AI to me is a tool for growth. So all it is a tool that when you look at it from a business lens only, creates infinite possibilities.
Yep.
Because business lens, this isn't about the robots taking over. This isn't, it told me George Washington went to the moon. Irrelevant. How can I grow my business and create greater impact by leveraging this? So for me, what I ended up doing is as I was using it and shattering my belief ceiling and being like, oh my God, can you believe it can do this? It can do this. I don't know a single other person in the world who's ever done this to begin with. Nobody else is using this. I just started creating videos and sharing it. I created a Facebook group, started putting them on YouTube. And 2 months later, I turned myself into an AI and ChatGPT coach for entrepreneurs and business leaders who want to get more done with less faster in a human first manner. And this is the key. Everybody else thinks you're just outsourcing this to robots.
Yep.
That's what the people who suck do. The people who are best in class, remember, Matt, you and I, we have world-class standards. We sit there and we lead. This is my vision, my idea, the thing that I want to create. Hey, ChatGPT, Jarvis, Claude, Midjourney, whatever it is, help yes and this for me. And then you layer on the human part afterwards. I call this the human AI sandwich. This right here will make you so much money for the next 10 years if you do this.
Let's go,
Think
Rob.
about this. Think about this for how you use ChatGPT. Human, AI, human. Human first, your inputs, context, specificity. AI, so that's the bread,
right?
The meat, the cheese, the veggies, however much you want in there. That's AI cooking with you. Yes, and partner, creative partner. And then at the very end, you're not just going to ship some work that a robot sent you. You're going to go, wait a second. I'm Rob and Matt. My voice matters. My authenticity matters. My soul matters. My heart matters. I'm not shipping a single thing until I check first that everything is aligned to who I am.
Amen.
And that last part is the thing that most people aren't going to do. Why?
Well,
because comfortable is comfortable. You just ship the work and be done.
And what I noticed in the last year and a half, as you did too, because I use ChatGPT also, and people would be like, why are you doing that? I'm like, oh, it's fun. I like it. Like, it's like I have this little creative, guru partner with me, And so what I was doing, I was nerding out making scripts. Like I literally was making scenes, like skits, like funny skits. Like I'd be like, do this. And okay, well now change it like this in this voice and blah, blah, blah. But what I noticed about a year and a half ago is it started to know me based on my social media profiles and what I would write, my articles, my Facebook transcripts. And then it started getting really, really specific on making sure it did align with me, to the point now where I can talk about my growth. And I saw David Karchabal doing this yesterday, I think, about his workouts. And he said, I'm putting all my data in there. Here's your workout for the day. This is what you need to focus on, David. And then he said, please tell me how you feel about after that. I'm like, wow. I mean, it's literally turning into a personal assistant, like to the max, that caters directly to me. Like, I never saw that part coming.
So do you want a ninja trick?
Yes.
You're getting hot off the press. Hot off the press.
I'm going to write it down and it's recorded.
Number one, and I just want to make sure everybody's doing this. Make sure you've set up your custom instructions in ChatGPT. No one is ever going to tell you this because no one listening right now knows another ChatGPT coach because there's not many of us who exist. So one of the things you do, if you click the little circle that has your picture, and that'll open up the settings, there's a thing that says customize GPT. When you do, two boxes will appear. The first one says, what do you want us to know about you?
Oh, wow.
And then the second one says, how would you like ChatGPT to respond? And after the fact, any of you who want to know exactly what I'm using, hit me up at Rob Cressy on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook. I will give you legitimately what I'm using. You can copy and paste it and update it for yourself. But here's why this is so specific or so important.
Send it to me. I'm ready, Rob.
So in the first box, you're going to put, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is my target demographic. And Matt, here you go. This is my brand voice. 5 to 10 keywords of what you sound like. I'm personable, witty, but brand safe, positive. You can have a drink with me at the bar. I take big concepts and make them small. So you throw that in there. What does that do? You no longer sound like a robot or anybody else because you've tuned this thing. Well, one of the things, and I haven't gotten the gold yet, I'm just making sure you've all done this.
Got it.
One of the things that is a non-negotiable, because ChatGPT or generative AI, which is just chat AI, it understands the difference between coach and world-class coach, right? So to you and I, Matt, oh, that guy's just a coach over there versus Ed Milet's a world-class coach. Rob and Matt, world-class coaches. Therefore, everything we do is always world-class. Always, always. Write me a world-class strategy, script, whatever it is. So boom, you put this in there, and in mine, it says a combination of things of I'm an AI self-development and high-performance coach. I help people optimize their time, well-being, and become the best version of themselves, like Ed Milet, Tony Robbins, and Wayne Dyer. It understands all of that. And I was like, I'm also called the creator's coach because I'm also really good at brand building, podcasting, and helping people shine their voice. And then what I did is I did a testimonial podcast with a client. And I took that transcript and I said, hey, ChatGPT, can you, using sentiment analysis, use those terms, pull out the 10 high-level categories of how I transformed her life? And it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like personal growth, overcoming negative mindset, clarity and vision.
Jeez.
I then took these 10 things and threw those bad boys in my custom instructions.
Okay.
Now, Matt, we have the best version of all of what Rob does. And I haven't even gotten to the good part yet. This is just making sure that everybody's done this. This single thing right here has the opportunity to make you millions of dollars because it'll change the way you use it forever. So last week on Facebook, there's this viral post going around about a ChatGPT prompt. And it was a bit odd for me because, yes, we talk ChatGPT, but seeing something like 20 times in a normal Facebook feed, like that's a little bit weird. Everybody just doesn't talk about it like I do. And the prompt was all around, hey, ChatGPT, tell me something about myself that I probably don't know. And everyone's like, oh my God, it's telling me how amazing I am, that I'm the best in the world. And everyone's like, this is the best. And yes, I get it, Matt. We get all up in the feels and ChatGPT is just complimenting us. But for where I sit as a coach and a high performer and an entrepreneur, I'm like, this is misplaced focus. You know why? What are you doing with that information to actually drive revenue or growth for your business? So this is what's cooking in my mind, and here's the gold. So I'm sitting on Saturday watching football, and sometimes, like you, Matt, I'll just cook with ChatGPT. Hey, maybe I'll make some Mad Libs for my clients. Maybe I'll just see what I can do. Legitimately, go and have it create a Mad Libs. It'll totally blow your mind. It's super fun. So I just sit there, and I said this prompt. It was simple. And one of my phrases that I use and I teach my clients, impress yourself. When you use ChatGPT, where you do something that is so good, you sit back and you're like, damn, that is unbelievable that I just created that. Boom, you shattered your belief ceiling. So I just came up with the idea, and it said, based on what you know about Rob Cressy, he wants to create a digital program helping entrepreneurs leverage ChatGPT and AI for business growth. What would he do? That was the exact framing. Based on what you know about Rob Cressy,
that's pretty open.
What would he do? But here was the gold. 99.99999% of the time, ChatGPT is saying this is what it would do. In this instance, it was recalling Rob's custom instructions, Ed Milet, Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, 10 things. And it says, well, this is how Rob would build this program. And all of a sudden, my jaw dropped because it took the best version of myself. And Matt, the blessing for people like you and I is I'm an expert at marketing. I'm an expert at AI. I'm an expert at self-development. I help people in a large variety of areas. Therefore, if I'm best at 12 different things, this thing is mirroring back to this is what the best in the world would do for each of these. And for some of them, it was like, yep, I'm doing it. Yep, I'm doing it. But one of them was like, well, since you're world-class at what you do and you want to make sure to create benchmarks for your clients, you would create a checkpoint a third of the way, 2/3 of the way, and at the end to make sure that you've got them so you just don't leave them alone. And I was like, oh my God, you're telling me. And then it's like, and you would also make it both super applicable, but easy to digest because you like to take big concepts and make them simple. And I'm like, oh my God, this thing is giving me the formula to create the dreams and vision based on what Rob would do, not what ChatGPT would do. It's Rob plus ChatGPT. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. This is amazing. Dude, we could go another hour, like for sure. We'll have to do this again. So,
Gladly.
so Rob, what how can people get a hold of you?
Lots of different ways. Number one, my community, you can go to unlimited.coach. We're all about growing your business and life together around AI and self-development in a human-first manner. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook at Rob Cressy. On YouTube, you can search Unlimited Coach. And I have a podcast called Built for the Game, all designed around helping you win in business and life for the long haul.
All right. So I have to ask you these questions real fast because I need you to turbo through them. Are you ready?
I'm there.
What do you love more than anything in the whole world?
Myself and my family.
What makes you tick? What gets you excited about life?
Everything, the ability to bring my vision to life and create a positive impact on other people.
This is fun, man. What are Rob Cressy's purposes?
This is the first thing I read every single morning in my boot sequence. I'm a positive force for good that leads my son Maverick to what's possible.
Okay, last question. You're nailing this. You're killing it. Okay. This is the question we're all trying to answer. Why is Rob Cressy on Earth?
I'm on Earth to be a positive force for good in the world. So yes, I'm a mirror for my son and what's possible right there. But I am a conduit of what is possible for you and everybody else, not to become Rob, but to be that example of that possibility of how you can do this for yourself as well.
Yeah, man, you nailed it. I mean, that was the fastest I think anyone's ever answered those questions. So well done. Probably not as fast as ChatGPT though. That's okay though.
I bet it's faster than ChatGPT. That's the thing. I live this.
Yeah. Well, Rob, you will be on again. I can't wait. I definitely have some questions for you. And you know, I love your energy. It was a 15 out of 10 today. You killed it. Please go follow Rob. If you need any help with ChatGPT, how to incorporate that in your business, Rob is your guy for sure. He has been a front runner in this game when everybody else was a little scared of it. And so I really appreciate you. I appreciate your friendship. And thank you so much for being on the show, Rob.
You're welcome, Matt. Thanks for being that shining light.
Yeah. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you guys.